Well, I'm the president at Bates Technical College, and I'm here to welcome you. And I'm going to take about 10 minutes here and just give you a little insight into what I think your day is all about. And I say this, don't trust my judgment. This day is about you. You get to dictate the agenda today, but for me, I think summits are kind of a convocation of sorts where you get to think about where you've been and where you are and where you might go next. You're going to get to see some of the best practice examples in two primary sectors. And, I was just telling Angel, didn't we do a good job of about extinguishing some of these sectors? I'm thinking about what we did to the construction trades during the recession of the late 2010s, where we thought it was wise to get everybody who was dislocated or affected by that economic shift out of the trade. And then we wonder why we're stuck with big skill gaps and shortages in trained workforce. This is also a chance to use our history to reinvent ourselves for a preferred future that doesn't make such mistakes as we move into the future. We thought we'd figured out that we didn't need as many construction electricians as we thought we needed, and all of a sudden we find out Boeing's going to need 500,000 of them over the next 10 years. We got to get better at that. So what about Bates? We've got an acronym called CODE, and I really think there's some parallels for your efforts back home in your institutions and organizations in Bates. The C in CODE is compliance. You got to kind of take care of the compliance stuff first and make sure you're out of harm's way with getting your paperwork turned in, your payroll taken care of. There's lots of minutia in the work we do, and no one really realizes that we do a lot of that, don't we? O for code, organized. You got to get organized around the work, and at Bates we've certainly been doing that with a lot of restructuring, the adding and changing of positions. D, probably the most important element in code, which is developing yourself and those around you. Economic development is workforce development, but we're not going to be a world-class workforce development system here in the state of Washington or in the Intermountain Northwest if we don't focus on ourselves and our own needs. I'm also reminded, we've got a new young faculty member here we just stole from IBEW. I apologize, in the construction electrician area. I read an article this morning that was tweeted by Harvard Business Review about the thing that employers are missing even to this day with new hires, and it's satisfaction. It used to be leave me alone, it used to be where's the money, it used to be lots of other things. But now it's satisfaction. So as we develop ourselves, understand the investments we make in ourselves and the people around us are going to be critically important. And then for us, E is the end game. And for us, it's excellence in teaching and learning. For you, I'd let you decide what tethers best to the end game with your organization. So you got to have a mission, right, Mike? It's got to be pretty concrete. It's got to have the support of everybody around the table. And it's got to roll off your tongue. And for Bates, we just revised our mission, and it's about serving diverse communities. It's about inspiring student learning. It's about challenging increased student achievement. And it's about educating for employment. Pretty straightforward. What's your mission? And how are you measuring it? How are you doing against what it is you're really trying to accomplish back home in the organizations you fill? For us, we have core themes that allow us to go out and measure the things we're doing. We're driven by an accrediting body who requires us to do that, and then do kind of an annual survey of how we're doing in terms of fulfilling our mission. But hey, we're in a new world. It's not just about fulfilling your mission, it's about sustaining your organization. Whether it's a labor work group, a college, a WDC, whether it's a professional organization like the Workforce Education Council, I see Angel's here and Mike's here, the real challenge we have is how do you sustain your organization? Because, hey, we're going into an interesting time in the early 2020s where that dependency curve of under 18 and over 60 creates the smallest per capita workforce in the history of our country, which means there's no one to waste. And our work today ought to be about that. So not only how are you doing with mission fulfillment, what it is you want to do, serving diverse communities, inspiring, challenging, and educating for me, it's all about sustainability. How are we going to ensure that our workforce development organizations thrive? You better have a sense of strategic direction too, and it's very simple, it's fourfold. Number one, new programs and clienteles. We're a 75-year-old institution this year. I doubt if what we've done over the last 75 years is going to have much relevant value over the next 10. Because we're going into waters that are unlike anything we've gone into before with the demography, with the workforce, with the relevance of our programs. New programs and clientele, strategic direction number one. Strategic direction number two, student success. How many of you have sons and daughters? How many of you are a son and daughter? How many of you have ever invested in one or more credits of going to college? How many of you have invested one or more hours of being in an apprenticeship? You hear me? You want to know that your investment has a return. The days of institutions not focused on student success, where you're missing on the end game, are over. I'm not sending my Johnny, my Georgia, or my Jackie to an institution who isn't committed to student success. And that goes for you if you're running an apprenticeship program. That goes for you if you're funding a WDC initiative like an academy or a special program. It goes for you if you're a student who's being honored with a scholarship today. Strategic direction number three, efficiency and capacity. We've got a world-class welding program. We're a Boeing assessment center. We've got a world-class faculty. We're doubling down on welding. It's what we do and do very well. We're not only doubling down for it in aerospace, we're doubling down for it in marine. We're not only doubling down for it in cooperation with IBEW, but we're doubling down in cooperation with the shipyards, building capacity. Efficiency. However, if we've got under-enrolled programs, it's going to be hard to hold on to those because the margins on these expensive career technical programs doesn't allow you to eat those margins like we did in years past when the state was funding us at about 75% of the game. New programs and clienteles, student success, efficiency and capacity. The last one is new modalities. And man, I think labor's had this figured out for eons. The non-traditional learning experience is becoming the tradition. Internship, apprenticeship, work-based learning, an account of what you've learned for credit without having been enrolled, prior experience. Work while you're doing the work as opposed to studying before you work. And Bates has engaged this in a big way, not only with apprenticeship programming, but acknowledging that the student of today is coming more and more prepared out of K through 12, many of times having already completed credits and the like. So, mission, strategic directions. The last thing I'll finish with is, how will you get there? What's your style? And you better have a sense of this. Some people call these values. We call this our work pad. And the acronym I'll run through because the words are pretty self-explanatory. W under work pad, it's got to be world class. If I'm sitting next to the second busiest seaport in the western North American hemisphere, North America or hemisphere, I can't be tethered to only the Tacoma standards. You got to be world-class, tethered to the Pacific Rim standards, and you got to be competitive, or when that canal blasts open down there, we'll be out of business as a port. O, outcomes-based. You better know what you're intending, how to measure it, and demonstrate the evidence. R, you better be resource development-based, because the simple reality is, when I left the state of Washington in 2005 for Riverland Community College in Minnesota, we were 66% funded by the state of Washington. And when I got back in 2012, near as I can tell, we're about down to 45%. And all you got to do is look at our baccalaureates. Our state institutions now are below 30% state assisted. Our flagship universities like University of Washington and Washington State are in some cases below 10% state assisted when you add in all the grants and contracts. Resource development based. WorkPad, world-class, outcomes-based, resource development-based. K, knowledge-based. You better have a national, international, or an employer standard for what it is you're doing in the workforce. We see this in aerospace, but we see it in transportation and automotive, collision. We see it in the outdoor power equipment, power sports area. Teaching to a standard, learning to a standard with that certification. The PAD acronym is easy. In partnership, and I think that's what we're about today, with aspirations, which means, you think my board cares that we're in that tough times and the folks in Olympia haven't decided on a budget yet? They want to know where we're going. They want to know what those 3 new programs are, and in terms of efficiency, what are we doing to bolster enrollments and increasing that pipeline? You got to have aspirations. And then the last one is probably the most important one, and man, take your hat off for a minute and think about this. Diversity. Can we afford to be in a business that doesn't have women engaged in a traditionally male occupation, or vice versa? Can we be in a program in Walla Walla where the Hispanic community is now in excess of 20%, where we don't have Spanish-speaking, bilingual, bicultural individuals who are of more value to the employer than the monolingual individual who speaks English, not represented in our programs? Pierce County, 60% white, 40% non-white, with equal parts of African American, Pacific Islander, and First American, Asian American, and African American. Bates serves 60% not white neighborhoods, inverted from the Pierce County statistics. We got to focus on diversity in terms of our workforce, our hirings, and who we are as an institution, or we're not going to be relevant to that new worker. Well, I want to thank you for coming to Bates for your meeting, and I want to suggest that you engage yourself on your mission, your sense of strategic direction, your work pad, if you will. Don't trust anything you hear today. I know a couple of these jokers, they can't be trusted. But here's the deal. They're just like the rest of us. They got an idea, they got their compass out, they're lost just like the rest of us. They're setting a trajectory. They may not be headed true north or on the right sense of direction for you and your community. You chart your own course. You use what you learned today to validate your own sense of true north. And you leave here with your own strategic direction, your own work pad, your own sense of mission. I want to finish by acknowledging you as a work group, because in the short time that the centers have existed and some of the partnerships around these sectors have existed, local program faculty have been invited to nominate high-achieving students for a $1,000 scholarship. And by the way, in today's world, if you don't think $1,000 is a lot of money, ask one of my 7 homeless students in my culinary program. Ask one of my 5 welding students who's homeless, who intend to go to work for Boeing. $1,000 is a lot of money. This scholarship is funded by the PAN Global Training Systems as an initiative to ensure student success. Through partnership of 3 Canadian colleges, Plan Global Training Systems is the leading publisher of paper and web-based technical learning materials designed specifically for energy industries, developing and delivering these to stakeholders since the early 1900s. On behalf of Washington Centers for Excellence for Clean Energy and Construction, we're pleased to announce this year's recipient of that $1,000 scholarship. He happens to be a Bates student. His name is Timothy Floyd, and he's with the Electrical Construction Program. Timothy, can you come up and we'll... You can just take the whole wallet.
Thank you, sir.
Congratulations.
What, are you serious?
Hell no, I'm not serious. You know, here's what's interesting about a silly little old scholarship like this. This fills one little divot, right? You probably got a lot of divots to fill. We all do as young students. What's more important is everyone in this room is acknowledging what you represent in terms of someone who's got a vision for themselves, your own strategic direction, and who's on his way in a world-class program, learning a trade that'll give you skills throughout your career where you'll promote first, train first. You're always welcome back. Let's give this young man a hand.
All right. Well, 7 years ago, we learned that the only thing to fear was fear itself. Anyways, it's a great honor to receive this distinguished award. As for what I'm going to do with it, well, probably, tools, transportation, that sort of thing. And gosh, what else is there to say? I'm so grateful, for starters, to Jim, who helped me get into this position, and also to Dave, if he's here, who initially when I started at Bates really helped nurture and foster my fascination with electricity, as beautiful as it is dangerous. And beyond that, I've gotten a lot of valuable experience at this school, especially with hands-on learning at Habitat for Humanity, which is twofold in its applications insofar as I gain experience and I help donate labor to a good cause. And I suppose I'll conclude by saying thank you.
Very good. Have a great day.
Thanks, Ron. So we made Ron a year ago our captain of our Centers of Excellence. As we're losing our presidents over the years into retirement, we have to find the champions for us. So welcome again to the 10th Annual Construction and Energy Summit. How many of you have been? Is there anybody here that's attended all 10? Okay, Carrie, Pierce, Mike Kelly, you're close. 9, Pat, okay. So we really switched it up this year. Lots and lots of feedback about where we should be, how we should get there. So I'm Barbara Haynes-Turner, Center of Excellence for Clean Energy, housed at Central High College. We want to first let everybody know a little bit about who's in the audience. And I'm always amazed. Every year I know fewer people. And I think that's a good sign. I used to know everybody, and I don't know everybody that's coming these days. So the first and foremost, I want to recognize Joe Jolazzo. Please stand. Joe is the chair of the Centralia College Board of Trustees, and that board has continued to support our center, and it's the trustees that continue to make us who we are. So thank you, Joe. So how many of you in the audience are from industry? Okay. How many from labor? Okay. How many from workforce? Okay, the community technical college system. Okay, so here's the tradition on the system. I'm going to count to 3 and then just yell out your college name. Okay, ready? 1, 2, 3. Okay, you got to do better than that. We got 2 days. We got to get some energy going. Okay, one more time. 1, 2, 3. Good job. Did I miss anybody in terms of any organization that you're with that doesn't fall into any of those categories? Okay, good. And we have a few elected officials. I don't see them yet, but Senator Marilyn Chase will be coming later today. Rosa McLeod, I don't see her. She's with Senator Cantwell's office. So we sort of wandering in and out throughout the day. So thank you all. We hope you will network, meet new people, get reacquainted. That's really what it's about. If you go home with 3 or 4 new contacts to me, you've done your job. So thank you, and we hope you will enjoy our day.
Good morning. So I am Shana Peshik, the Director of the Construction Center of Excellence. So thank you all for joining us. I think maybe if you found the news about how many electricians are going to be needed, that's a shocking, right? Okay, that's my construction humor. Good thing I already have a job that pays. Yeah, the electricians got it. So when you're talking about excellence, it's one thing to have that in our title as the directors of the Center of Excellence, but what does that really mean? And other than just a word for us, it's really surrounding us with excellence in our partnerships and the people that help us get our initiatives and projects like this done. So that's kind of where I find meaning in that word. So for those of you that are on an advisory board for Center of Excellence, would you please raise your hand? We'd really like to say thank you for all of your support and the excellence that you bring in as far as your expertise, your willingness to volunteer, your time, and your effort in helping us really bring the initiatives and technology and best practices and events like this to faculty. So thank you. We also wanted to say thank you to the members of the Executive Committee for the WISE grant. You're going to be hearing a little bit more about that grant throughout the day, but if those of you here are on that Executive Committee, could you raise your hands? So thank you. Those are some other members that are really helping us bring funding to the Washington and get some really great projects going. So thank you for that. I just wanted you thinking about some of the outcomes of this event. You will be given an opportunity to do some surveys and things for the speakers and the presentations that you hear today. But we'd like you to think as you're attending these sessions, how is what I'm hearing going to impact me? How can I take this back and affect it and implement it in my daily work, or how it changes how you might present information to students, things like that. So really be thinking about how this might be an impact. And also use the opportunity to network and make those new connections. Like she said, it's the collective impact of what we can do together that really makes change. So, really be taking this opportunity to make those new connections. So with that, we will kick it off.
Okay, so a few months ago, this is how the center directors work. We're really integrated. We partner well with each other. Shana called me and said, Barbara, I met the new clean tech sector lead at Commerce, and I'm like, well, let's get to know this guy. So after a couple of meetings, he he's now become a really good friend of the Centers of Excellence. So I would like to introduce Brian Young. He's our opening keynote speaker. He is the point of contact for the clean technology companies who want to navigate Washington State's political and economic landscape. And he has just been amazing for us already in that role. So new to the commerce, new to this position, and just creating the whole clean tech sector for Washington State. Thanks, Brian.
Through that. So my name is Brian Young. First of all, I wanted to thank Barbara and Shana both, as well as the Centers of Excellence for Clean Energy and Construction for putting this on, 10th annual. Congratulations. This is my first time here, so I'm very excited about that. And also thank you for Bates Technical College. I understand it's the first year they're hosting. Looks great to me, so thank you. And most important, I think, congratulations on the Department of Labor grant, and I can't wait to hear about the WISE project going forward. I know that's the focus of a lot of what we're going to be hearing. And I was telling Barbara, I just came from 3 years in the nuclear remediation industry, and I thought bureaucratic acronyms were out of control there. That labor award that she won brings it to a whole new level. CAACCC, I think. It's amazing. Congratulations. So, I am here from the Washington Department of Commerce, and I am hoping that what I talk about today will be of interest to you all. I'm going to talk kind of about the state's economic development priorities and goals, kind of the next level, hopefully helping our plans to help develop businesses that will employ the folks who are training. So we'll get going. So Governor Inslee, after his election, he decided to implement a new group within the Washington Department of Commerce called the Office of Economic Development and Competitiveness. This group consolidated some of the functions that Commerce already had around business services and international trade, and added a new idea to economic development in the state. I say a new idea, although you'll see you guys have the idea. But the idea of cluster-based economic development, I think, is a pretty common acknowledged method of economic development these days. And I think it's pretty exciting that the governor has a vision to kind of make the first steps to get this state more integrated into the world of cluster development. So as part of that, the state chose 7 sectors. And I'll talk a little bit about how we chose those sectors. But and the idea was to put a single point of contact in place for each of those sectors. And this was the sector lead program, of which I am the last one that's been hired up. I was just hired in November to take this role. First person to have this role. So most of the 7 of us tend to be more from an industry background. And the idea is that we can act as a single point of contact, not only taking businesses and industries' needs and desires and bringing those back to government and helping inform and shape policy in a way that's more constructive for everybody, but also being able to talk about what the government is doing, trying to do, understanding the shortfalls and the positives of it, but bring that to industry and help that communication be more two-way. So there's, as I said, we're in the Department of Commerce, and we have a business service division, which is really for the intake of businesses. So as business looks to set up shop in our state, we already have that infrastructure. We also have a very strong international trade group. So we all sit in downtown Seattle. Washington Department of Commerce has offices down at 6th Virginia, and it's kind of a single point of contact. It's pretty unique statewide and US-wide, but we have not only all our state resources for economic development on the industry side, but we also have a lot of federal agencies as well as a few different representatives of foreign countries all on the 2 floors right down there in downtown Washington. So it's a central point of contact where businesses can come and kind of be exposed to all the business and services that the state offers. So that's a little overview of the program. So what are the sectors that we determined? Well, if you see on the left, I'm sure you're very familiar with the centers of excellence that you all already run and interact with every day. And it should be no surprise that they match up almost perfectly. I will give maritime, both global trade and supply chain management, as well as the maritime manufacturing and technology. And we have military, which I'll put the Homeland Security, emergency management. Careers and education we don't have, but I think you guys are more than covering that. So the reason I bring this up is we are, one of the things this governor has tried to do, and I think is doing very well through a couple different initiatives, is trying to align policy and align the efforts of government to better serve the people of Washington and also the industry of Washington. And that's what we're going to need to do to develop jobs and grow our economy. We are the economic development folks that face the industry. I will say that if you look at all of the different sectors, strategic plans, and whatever level of development they are, every single one of them starts with the foundation of education and workforce development. And it's crucial to every one of our sectors. There's a lot of overlap. My sector tends to overlap greatly with maritime, military, aerospace, life sciences, global health. And we all, to some extent, need very similar, but also very specialized training that you all are providing. So I will also say we as sector leads have that industry background. We feel fairly confident. We'll take an opinion on kind of private industry events and whatnot. None of us are experts on the workforce development or the education. And we really look to, where we might have an opinion on industry, when it gets to workforce development, we look to you. And we are open to working better with you all. We understand the value, and also we don't feel like experts in your field. So I would use this opportunity to say, get to know your sector lead, educate them, tell them when they're screwing up, help them understand what the issues are, because as President Bates mentioned, we're all out there, we're trying to do the best we can, and it's a big world, and sometimes it feels overwhelming, and just keep hammering us. We're all fairly new to this job. I started in November. Nobody has been there longer than 2013, so we're open, and we really like to continue to interact with folks like you. So why also did we choose these industries? Those 7 sectors represent the opportunity to grow at 25% greater than Washington business on average. So that's where those 7 sectors were first determined. There is a chance you'll see an expansion of some of those sectors. A lot of that is funding related and industry driven. A lot of our, actually interestingly enough, it's that thing on the last slide, our salaries are actually paid partially by industry. Different levels for different folks, but that's one way to get industry buy-in for our positions. So you may see that, that sector strategy grow a bit, but we are going to try to keep it to these industries that have this higher growth potential than normal, because we think sector leads focusing on those areas can help ensure that level of growth. So how are we doing so far? Right now my charts show 2013. Some of the 2014 numbers are in right now. But so far, since the program started, we've been on track to meet all our goals. If this surprises you, I'd be surprised, but aerospace is by far the largest sector from a gross business income. And then behind that would be ICT, information communications and technology. Those are by far the 2 mammoths, and probably the 2 that have been and will continue to be growing the fastest. I think you can imagine why if you read the newspaper. However, also aerospace gets a bump now because we're seeing a huge jump in the space side of aerospace. So Alex Peach gets to claim all that too, and that's great because that's almost a whole new cluster developing within there. Also in life sciences, which hasn't been growing as much as it was back in the day. I think you just saw Juno Therapeutics had a huge IPO, and that represents more than just a nice IPO for investors, but it also represents a new cluster within that life sciences community of that immunotherapy that is exactly what we're looking for. Those kind of anchor tenants are what creates the clusters that create the ecosystem that creates the jobs. And also our job growth has been on track. Again, the fastest growing ones are the clean tech and info ICT, but everybody's been hitting their numbers so far. And gross business, so job numbers aren't in for 2014 yet, but the gross business income numbers are in, and we still look like we're doing very good. We've actually, the combined sectors grew much faster than 25% of Washington State. We actually, the 2015 goals, assuming we just have a boring 2015, we're going to hit our overall goals. Hopefully we'll have a very exciting 2015 and do much better. And so overall, those sectors are growing almost 50% faster than the rest of the state. And this is what we get excited about. This is what I think we're all working towards. And again, this is what's going to create those jobs that you're training the folks to come and or the challenges and the jobs that you're training folks to take on. So that's a little bit about the sectors. I'm going to keep this to hopefully about 30 minutes, and I want to take questions because I'd love to hear what you all are interested in. Again, you guys have had that economic development mission, I think, in your bones probably since the day you started your jobs. and you are the foundation of economic development, and we would like, I think you probably hear a lot of opinions from industry and from us. I'd love to hear your opinions too on what we can do a better job of. So I'll just put that out there. So I will talk a little bit about my sector in particular. So the clean technology sector. I call it the most aspirational of the sectors. A lot of the sectors that you see have those big anchor tenants, those big clients that really create an ecosystem. And the clean tech sector, we have some of those. They're not as well known, and I think we're growing a lot of those. But because we are so diverse and the clean tech sector is such a large umbrella, that we have a major impact on the state. Right now, we've got about over 57,000 direct employees in clean tech throughout the state, 16.7 billion in economic activity. I think we're over 17 billion now with these new 2014 numbers. And there's at least one firm in every county that calls itself a clean tech firm in this state. There's lots of other numbers. I'm trying to get my head around. I've seen industry numbers, about 915 companies throughout the state that are somehow involved in what are identify themselves as clean technology companies, and those are numbers that we continue to work and try to get down to show the reality of our state. So, first I'm going to start with a very tough question that everybody asks. So what is clean technology? How do we define clean technology? I don't spend too much of my time worrying about how to define it. There are lots of industries. It's a big umbrella, and I'm out there to try to help any industry that is willing to take a bet on this state and is going to try to create jobs in this state. That being said, there's definitely focuses that we have, and you can look at a lot of the previous work that's been done to develop energy strategies in this state, and you tend to see a relative pattern of the kind of industries that we have a lot of expertise in, a lot of focus on. A lot of that is in the built environment, energy efficiency in the built environment, probably the largest sector of the clean technology sector in this state. We've been doing energy efficiency and advanced building technologies in the state since the 70s and probably before. We're amazing in all ways. I don't think we always realize until you talk to companies that go out of state and do energy efficiency programs how advanced this state is with our energy efficiency, not only in policy, but also in practice. Then we also have a huge cluster around what's developing in the world of smart grid. Smart grid is another huge all-encompassing area that you can think about, but think of it as improvements in our energy distribution infrastructure that make it a more efficient energy distribution system, as well as a two-way communication, the Internet of Energy, some people call it, but that ability to understand exactly what's happening on our electrical grid and use that knowledge to either increase reliability, increase efficiency, reduce outages. There's a whole host of things. A big aspect in this state of that smart grid work is energy storage as well. The ability to store large amounts of energy that can be used at a great scale to basically, again, bring more efficiency and help integrate renewables into our field. Third one that we have a big focus on in the state are biofuels and bioproducts, especially from our ag and timber wastes. So the ability to use that which comes out of our forest, that comes off of our ag land, to create high-value fuels, high-value chemicals, and high-value products. And there's, again, it's the whole world that goes anywhere from anaerobic digesters to advanced chemical manufacturing and whatnot. And we've got some incredible work going on in this state. And then, so what's the vision for the clean tech sector? I mean, we want to make Washington a place that the world looks to create solutions that lead to a clean energy infrastructure and environment. So we want to be number one in folks' minds. There's lots of ratings out there, rankings, Brookings, whoever else wants to rank states by whatever metrics they use. I pay attention to them. I take them each with somewhat of a grain of salt. In general, though, we want to be, when we bring in delegations from China, from Europe, from wherever, what do they think of Washington? Primarily, they think Microsoft, Amazon, they think aerospace, Boeing. we want that same level of recognition for the state in the clean technology. We want, when people think of workforce development issues, when people think of research institutions and academia, and when people think of private industry, creating solutions that will lead to a cleaner environment and a cleaner, more efficient energy system, we want them to think of Washington State. We want to be that first place on the tip of their tongues for that. And I think we have a good chance of doing that. I mean, again, numbers, you can see whatever numbers, however many billions and trillions of dollars are going to be spent on energy infrastructure and cleaner aspects of our energy infrastructure. We are in the catbird seat to get a substantial piece of that investment that goes into worldwide investment. We need to create the companies. We're going to bring companies in. We're going to support companies that come here. We also are going to do a lot of work, which I'm going to talk about here, to help those companies that start here, start small here, grow and become successful. And at the end of the day, we can get into it. I know Tacoma Power folks, probably better to get into it. We have a challenging energy system in this state. We have cheap electricity. We peak at the wrong or different times than everybody else. We're just 64 utilities. It gets crazy. At the same time, we're like a big living laboratory, and if you can do it here, you can truly do it anywhere. So we want to set that ability for companies to come base themselves here, take advantage of our workforce, take advantage of our research and academic institutions, and create the solutions here. And then we're going to use our power as a major exporter around the world to help those companies get in and solve the problems that the world's seeing, be it China, be it India, Southeast Asia. I mean, I can't tell you how many delegations we have on a weekly basis coming in, wanting to know what Washington has to offer, what solutions that we're developing here that they can implement in their countries. So, one aspect, and I'll just talk about one tool that I have, which I'm very thankful for, because a lot of the sectors don't, for economic development in the clean technology space. And again, I'll thank the vision and the leadership of Governor Inslee for making this a priority and making it happen. But in the last budgetary cycle, Governor Inslee created what's called the Clean Energy Fund. It was a $40 million fund. I'll talk about the different aspects of it that was developed to create and foster clean energy and clean technology companies in the state. So this $40 million was given, was approved by the legislature, given for administration over to Tony Uzzabelli in the State Energy Office. I was not here for this, so I cannot take credit, but I will say I think they did a very good job of thinking through this. I mean, we think, oh yeah, they got $40 million. Yeah, of course, they're a government agency, they got $40 million. I mean, this is not something that's common. I mean, it's like Barbara probably getting $10 million from the Department of Labor. This is a big deal for us internally, and it's something new we're dealing with, running through that kind of money. And if you look at it, stimulus funds back in the day started all this. The DOE decided to get us out of the recession. They just dumped money in the state energy offices. $60 million dropped in the state energy office. They ran programs, some successful, some not successful. But what they did is they learned how to use that kind of money. Now we've administered for the last 2 years this $40 million pot of money. It's been incredibly successful, and we're super excited about it, and it's been a learning process. We're hoping that there is another pot of money at the end of this session, which hopefully comes before June 30th, and I'll talk about what we're asking for there. But this also internally is a learning experience for us, where we're getting used to these public-private partnerships. Because we're also the state, the interesting issues we have with lending the credit of the state to private institutions, we have to develop these public partnerships to get this money out, to get these interesting projects going. So as they got this $40 million pot of money, it had some buckets in where it had to be spent, and so they had to design a program around it. What they looked at was pretty standard how you think of companies, how you think of this going from research, development, demonstration to deployment. I mean, this is how you get a new technology off the ground. This is how you help startup companies take those technologies and bring it to the next level to get it commercially ready. So in the Clean Energy Fund for the 13 to 15 budget cycle, there's the Research and Development Fund. The federal matching funds address the research and development. These smart grid funds, I'm going to talk about all these, they really go from that R&D, taking it out of the laboratory, getting it on a demonstration level And this is very much what I just talked about. This is helping companies like UET up in Mukilteo that makes grid-level batteries, a PNNL spin-out. They've got this, it's great to tell somebody that we have this big vanadium flow battery that's not like anything else you've ever seen. It works great, buy it. It's not cheap, but just buy it and it'll work. They need steel in the ground. They need to prove that they can, that these big expensive batteries work in order to get a change. So the state in a public-private partnership tries to buy down that upfront capital cost of installing these kinds of technologies on our grid to allow those companies to have that place to go and point to and say, our technology works, now let's implement this around the world. And then finally, on the deployment side, those companies that are post-revenue, they've established themselves, they're on the path to becoming a large, profitable company, hopefully. There is a revolving loan fund that will help them get pretty typical debt, but just has a little, the lenders are just more used to or more educated about lending into renewable energy, clean technology type companies that just don't necessarily always have the exact same path that a traditional mom and pop pizza place might have, or some that are more used to funding. And I'll talk a little bit about the change in what we've asked for 15, 17. So how did we break this up? The federal matching grants that I talked about. These really focus on Washington research institutes, but as you see from about the 6 that we were able to give out, and actually we were able to support some startup businesses as well. So it's not just the research institutions. We had $6 million to play with. Really, this program was run almost in the first come, first serve. If you could bring in federal program dollars, we could match it. We kept about $5 million on hold for a national manufacturing center of excellence. Unfortunately, we lost that to Oak Ridge, Tennessee. Good thing about this state is, okay, that $5 million, this literally, we just found out about this at the beginning of this year. We had $5 million, we had to get out by June. Luckily, we had a backlog of amazing projects of people who were all lined up to get federal funding before June. We were able to take that $5 million and quickly deploy it to about 6 different projects. We've got projects funding research at UW, WSU, and PNML, research at EPA, research over in at Olympic Peninsula College in the Port Angeles on advanced carbon fiber recycling, and some at UW's APL on advanced underwater turbine design. So we spread a wide range of matching money, and all that is a minimum. You have to at least have a 50-50 match of federal money. I forget what our final leverage numbers are on that money, but we had probably a 1.75 to 1 match with federal money, so we were able to leverage that state money up pretty significantly. So this is really to help develop or demonstrate clean energy technologies that are not viable, so it really is that R&D level. One thing that we've requested for the 15-17 year that would be interesting is we've tried to change that language from federal matching dollars to non-state dollars. So theoretically, anything that wasn't state money, we could try to match. This is all capital funds, so we invest in projects. We're not taking equity in companies or anything. We invest in projects and the capital side of projects. So we would like to be able to match foundation money, possibly even private investment into a big project. So open it up. That'll open up the pool of applicants we get and the ability to, because one big matching requirement we'll have is the more leverage you can bring. If somebody wants $1 million from us, but that brings in $14 million from somebody else, that's going to provide them a nice score on their sheets. This is also given out by, we have independent panels that make the decisions on these. So it is somewhat insulated from the government on the, it tends to be an industry and other, basically industry panels that help decide how this money is allocated. So the second pot of money that we had in 13-15 was $15 million for these smart grid grants. These grants had to go directly to utilities. The utilities were then responsible for putting together a team and pitching their idea of the kind of projects they could do that would be cutting edge and get actual ready to demonstrate infrastructure on the grid that falls in this smart grid world. the focus of that really became energy storage. I mean, that's where most of that focus became, that's where the utilities came to us with projects. Because grid level storage is a huge issue right now. So we were able to fund 4 different projects. Snohomish PUD had 2 projects. PSE had 1 project, and Avista had 1 project out in the Spokane area. All 4 of those projects, again, put grid scale batteries within our electrical infrastructure. There's different chemistries. So there's lithium ion, there's lithium phosphate, there's vanadium flow batteries. Each battery does different things. They all have different economic value propositions. And so another interesting aspect of this, PNNL has been hired to sit over all of these projects and create use case analysis for them. So these projects, hopefully, they're not just going to be there and be a nice little showcase and voila. We will have a lot of information that will probably drive a lot of decisions from utilities, not just here, but around the country on the value of these batteries and how these batteries can be used in a variety of ways on the grid in order to provide, basically pay themselves off. So we think technically they work, and now there's a lot of work to be done on making that economic case for them. So we're excited by that. And we're excited about, we've asked for $20 million in this next round. It's been a successful project, and we hope to continue it. I would say if you're interested, the smart grid world in this state is amazing. PNNL has run a 5-year program. It's the largest DOE-funded smart grid project in the world. We have companies like Alstom, Itron, Schweitzer Labs that literally lead the world in these areas, and it's a really exciting space. So we plan to continue to be in public-private partnerships to help it grow in this state. And then finally, as I mentioned, for those companies that are post-revenue and ready to take some debt, we have this revolving loan. It's $15 million. We requested another $15 million for this year. And it is broken up into 2 different things. So this was awarded, had to be nonprofit lending institutions. So Craft 3, Seattle-based, very interesting, long-time nonprofit lender, who just has an incredible business model, was given money not only to run, so 1 pot of money for a commercial loan program, so a $10 million grant from the state. They've leveraged up to about a $100 million loan portfolio, and they make loans into clean energy and clean technology companies. We have a pretty broad definition of clean energy and clean technology, so a lot of interesting companies can get money through this, and it's anywhere from $100,000 loans up to $5 million loans. So it can be a really important piece of a company's growth. There's also $5 million of it set aside, and that was given to Craft 3 as well as Puget Sound Cooperative Credit Union to provide financing for energy efficiency upgrades throughout the state. And it's pretty amazing. It's extremely easy money to get. Some of it can be done through on-bill financing, and it will anything. If you want new windows, if you can show that it meets the energy efficiency upgrade standards that are in place, we will help finance it. And Shannon over at Puget Sound Cooperative Credit Union, John Gertis at Craft 3 have done an amazing job pushing this money out. So there's one new bucket for 15-17 that may be of particular interest. There is no doubt in anybody's mind that manufacturing is going to continue to be a vital part of the economy around here, especially as we talk about advanced manufacturing and new techniques for manufacturing. And we want to do everything we can do to help promote the manufacturing of clean energy technologies in the state. So we've asked for a $10 million pot of money to provide credit enhancement facilities to private lenders to help encourage this. So what is credit enhancement? We could give them a discussion about it. I don't know if you're finance people out there, but in general for us, we run other credit enhancement programs in our low-income weatherization programs, and it's a pretty general term that allows us to shape a program to hopefully most effectively assist private lenders in possibly being able to buy down interest rates, produce loan loss reserves. There's a whole myriad of tools that can possibly be used. So we're pretty excited about this. I think there's a few companies in this state that are really right on the verge of some pretty significant growth in manufacturing capability, and I think something like this would really help. All of this is in the legislature. I don't ever lobby, but I know other folks that can't. And I would say, if you're interested in this, there are lots of legislators that would love to hear your opinion. Because this, like everything else, is very much on the table right now. I didn't even get into carbon trading or anything like that. We can talk about it. But a lot of these things that are really crucial, I think, to economic development around clean technology and clean energy in the state are on the table. The state's been an amazing supporter, and I hope that the support continues. And if it doesn't, we'll find ways to push on. I think that's all I have. As I mentioned, I'd love to hear a lot of questions.
On the utility scale, battery storage technology, is there a central location where the data from that study would be available?
Yeah, I mean, well, it'll be public, it's publicly paid for, so it'll be publicly available. I don't know, I'm sure we'll have links to it on our website, on the Department of Commerce's website at the State Energy Office, and I'm sure PNNL will have a link to it on their website as well. It's just now, the studies, the first battery actually just went online over in SEL's parking lot in Spokane, or in Pullman area 3-4 weeks ago. So those studies are just starting. And some of the batteries aren't even installed yet. So you're probably looking a year from now before there's real good data. I could ask PNNL maybe sooner than that, but the studies are just beginning.
Anybody else?
Other than storage, what other clean energy type things are you looking at or promoting?
Do I pay attention to? Yeah. So we have another area I didn't really talk about, and Governor Inslee is a big proponent of, is there's a lot of solar activity going on in the state. Tends to be, we have really good incentives for residential solar installations. And people have been taking advantage of that. You see the uptake rate on home solar installation. It's pretty amazing in the state. And with that, we have manufacturers of panels in iTech, and I hope Silicon Energy can find its way back. We do inverters here, so there's a lot of companies in that, as well as the research institutions. I mean, what's happening at the Clean Energy Institute with Daniel Schwartz and the research there on solar and film, and PNNL and whatnot. There's a lot of movement in that space. So I know people. Not good for solar. East side is actually very good. Power, but it's getting close. So solar continues to be, as I mentioned, biofuels. I didn't really talk about my background. Why do I get this job? And part of that is I think I have a very varied background, and I got my start out here in the state. It was very early employed at a company that became Imperium Renewables, built a big biodiesel plant down in Grays Harbor, and continues on this day as biodiesel producer in the country. But with that kind of bedrock, with Boeing here, with Alaska, the push, and with WSU being the head of the ASCENT program, which is the FAA Center of Excellence for Sustainability in Aviation, the work around, as I mentioned, kind of biofuels, biojet fuel, continues to be constantly going on behind the scenes. We don't have a big project yet, but I think you'll see probably some pretty big movement, some biofuels / you can't talk about biofuels anymore. Nobody is building plants specifically for fuel. They're building plants for, just like the petroleum industry does, for the high value chemicals that come off it. Fuel becomes a high volume, low margin business. So that research going on at WSU and stuff to produce those high value chemicals out of, like I said, forest or ag waste continues to be very interesting in the state. And we got lots of people doing a lot of these things. Down in bed, another aspect of the smart grid that we don't think about as much, but we're the catbird seat, and again, in many ways, is the sensor technology and the big data that lie beneath all of it. So this goes for advanced manufacturing. This goes for, when you hear the things like the Internet of Things, the Internet of Energy, the smart grid and everything. It is this idea that our world is going to be a sensor-based world with a free flow of information. And as we know, all that information doesn't do anything unless it's used in some way that's useful to folks. So behind the scenes, and with companies like Amazon and Microsoft in the cloud, what goes on down in the Portland all the way to Vancouver, Washington area with the Intels, Sharp Labs, in that aspect, that's almost hard to explain, but the sensors and the ability to transmit and use big data in this world is something I think you're going to see a lot of development, just because we have such a strong base in software and in these fields of technology. I mean, you wouldn't think Amazon, I mean, Microsoft will always tell us, don't forget we manufacture, we're a mega manufacturer. Maybe not all right here in Washington, but they manufacture. Amazon manufactures, but Amazon also runs warehouses that are just amazing in their technical complexity, and the smart grid or the sensor-based smart technology is what's making their logistics chains smarter and smarter. And is that clean tech? That's the problem with clean tech. Yeah, because it's making things efficient, it's reducing the energy consumption and all these things. We have in the state, if you look what the DOE is interested in, is in advanced manufacturing, one area they're really interested in is bringing down the energy intensity of key industries. And some of those industries are food processing, primary metals, petroleum, and chemical manufacturing, paper and pulp. Our state has all four of those in spades. So a lot of these kind of higher level things that you don't almost always think of as clean tech are areas where the state's going to excel. So, and I'm forgetting a lot of people. I'm sure there's a lot of businesses out there that would be really mad at me right now.
So do you work with NIA at all?
Yeah, and I mean, so I work personally, it's one-man show to some extent. I mean, I don't report to a lot of folks. There's Director Bonlander and the governor above him, but I don't have a bunch of folks working for me anyway, so I work very closely with a lot of the groups that support my sector. So NIAs of the world, the State Energy Office, Tony Hughes-Belly's policy guys who already have a lot of those relationships for a long time. Energy efficiency, like energy efficiency stuff, I'll talk about it a bit, but what I'll do is I'll call Greg or somebody back in the State Energy Office or Stan Price and get the real answer from them, because there are lots of technical experts in the state and a lot of different areas. So as much as connectors. So yeah, a lot of Clean Tech Alliance. We have a really great Clean Technology Alliance. I think it's the largest industry group in the United States that represents clean technology. They have over 300 members now. Tom Branton runs that organization out of Seattle. Great organization to be involved with, but and we have a lot of them. We have the NIAs and Smart Grid Northwest, and also all these industry groups I try to keep in touch with as well.
This is a good segue on the energy efficiency side. I think you presented the $5 million loan fund. Are there other things your office gets involved in to drive the demand for efficiency, so those loans are utilized that impact the market?
Yeah, a lot of what we do on the State Energy Office policy shop, work on policies that hopefully drive the adoption of some of those. Especially, we have some ability to try to drive policy around state procurement efforts. And also, we have a lot of ability to try to work with state agencies that own state properties and do implementation of kind of advanced energy efficiency work on within the state-owned buildings. I think that's actually a huge area that we could do a lot better in. And a lot of that is just coordinating and getting everybody on the same page. I could put you in I bet you there's other things we do that I'm not thinking about. If I could put you in contact with some folks at the State Energy Office, be able to answer your question in a lot more detail. And you know, a lot of it, I didn't say this in the speech, but I want to, if you guys are the ones banging this into people's head. I mean, clean technology, clean energy, whatever it might be. It's kind of an ethos that all of these things, the way I look at it is the ability to do what we're doing just in a smarter, more efficient way. In the end, it's not about getting down to the little details of how much carbon and how much this and that. It's really about looking at the way we've done things and being in this world where we have the technology to change the traditional ways things have happened. I think for the better, it's going to be a learning. It's going to take some learning too, but just that ethos of getting people to look at, kind of having their eyes open and looking at new ways to do kind of old jobs that end up falling into efficiency or clean energy and whatnot. Just the idea of doing things more efficient and doing things in a way that's more protective of our environment is kind of the overall ethos that I love to hammer into the young folks in the state. I think the state probably might go for Missouri. I guarantee the state way ahead of Missouri and that kind of ethos, but I think it's really important. So, yeah, but as far as those real specific things, I'm sure we do more and I can switch more.
Is there a website where you have your research
Yeah, one of my jobs will be to make that much easier to find, I think. I'm quickly realizing in this job, this state is amazing in many different ways. I said it before, I think. We don't give ourselves enough credit for the amazing stuff we do. And some of that is just communication. We don't have great, it's even hard for me to get on the Department of Commerce website and find what I want sometimes. So it really is hard for you guys too. So I will be developing more, hopefully, a clearinghouse like clean energy website, but there is State Energy Office, so the Department of Commerce, State Energy Office, can be able to see all that information there. Clean Energy Fund status and whatnot, information is there. Executive order information is there. A lot of it's there. It could be a little more. There's also, as I mentioned, the Clean Technology Alliance, those websites also, if you have specific like energy efficiency questions that you can hear from us.
So I'd just like to ask the question, how many of you were aware of the sector strategy that Brian has been describing, of all the different sectors? How many of you are aware? So this is new information to a lot of people here. So how many of you were surprised not only of the sectors, but guess what? The centers of excellence align with them. So this is the thing that I think that people are still trying to understand, is that the centers were born and developed to be economic drivers within the workforce development system. Ron alluded to it, Brian did a great job. So I just had to give it a little plug. So Brian will be around all day, thank you. I really appreciate that this is so new information for so many people. So let's take a break, come back in a half an hour, and we will move forward through the day. Thank you.